All right,
Alrighty.
let's.
There we are. Oh, and I made the terrible mistake of not actually setting my screen to show what I'm doing. Oops. That's fine. I can fix that. Anywho, can everybody in the chat hear me? And apparently my screen can be seen. There is lots of random stuff on screen to be seen.
This for you.
Also, I'm hearing something through your speaker. Are you using headphones?
No, that's just my air conditioner. I'll turn it off.
Yeah, don't burn yourself, but definitely have yourself set up.
That's cool. I mean, summer's almost over.
Fair enough.
Hmm.
All right, so you
Let me
good?
know. Yep. Let me know when you're ready.
All right, awesome. So, everybody, it is Monday, which means that we are going to have an interesting live stream, I hope. If we're not going to have an interesting live stream, then I don't know why we're here. But hopefully it should be decent. So, this is, what was the name that you wanted to be known by again?
The Silent Night or the Catholic Night, either way.
Okay, so we have the... We'll go ahead and go with Silent Night just because that's a less memeable, just in case.
People can meme my name. Like, I don't really care. I'm not ashamed to be a Christian or a Catholic.
Yeah,
A
fair
Christian
enough.
Catholic. I'm kind of doing that anyway. So, let's begin.
All right. So you and I have, and this is just for background story for everybody in the chat so that they know what is going on. You and I had an interaction in the comments section where we had a disagreement about, well, what the title of this video is, which is on abortion. So, if you can go ahead and give me your stance on it so that we can start with that, and then we'll just go ahead and let you take... Say that it's expressly wrong.
It's definitely wrong in most cases, the vast majority, because one, that baby is alive.
Mm-hmm.
It's a human being, and it's guaranteed to be sentient. So, with those three principles alone, that can more than speak for itself on it being wrong. If you kill an innocent person, it's murder right off the bat, and a baby is the ultimate form of innocence. If you think about it, it's just starting out life. And it hasn't even made any choices.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you can argue that the mom didn't want it, but she put herself into that position most of the time, with the exception, of course, rape, which are minority cases. The vast majority of the cases, it's consensual. You have to know that the primary reason sex exists is for reproduction, so humanity does not face extinction.
Okay, so we already have a few issues. One, primary. You've been disconnected from the server. Okay, I guess we're not doing those two things together. I was going to do classic while in the background during this, but I guess not. That's fine. Okay,
it's definitely the primary reason. I mean, the reason we have sexual desire.
So the primary, whether or not it's the primary reason, is a red herring. It doesn't matter. The primary, it doesn't matter. So here's the thing.
It definitely does because...
No, it doesn't. Here's the reason why. Sex is actually had more often for either pleasure or for increasing the bond between people, because we know that there's actually a chemical reaction that happens when people have sex that does help them become closer.
The reason we have those desire, the reason it's pleasurable, is to give humans incentive to do it.
If
sex was something... Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so, and this is why I said a moderator might be helpful. BT dubs. Anywho, so, if we're going to have this conversation, we have to admit, first of all, that sex has multiple things. The primary function of sex... Okay, so you're gonna let me finish my sentence.
All right.
Thank you. The sentence, the primary purpose of sex is completely irrelevant, because the purpose of sex is going to be dictated by the people having sex. So, for instance, if I am having sex with my partner, Raz, we are having sex because it is a bonding experience. That is it. We have no intention of having children. The primary purpose of sex doesn't enter that conversation, because the purpose we are having for it is strictly for bonding. That is the long and that is the short of it.
Is that the ending of your sentence?
I mean, that was more of a statement, but sure, why not?
Now onto mine. It may be what your intentions, but it doesn't change the fact that it is still the primary reason.
My point is that the concept of the primary reason, the concept of the primary reason doesn't matter. It simply does not matter. I know it doesn't.
I know it does. So let me explain why.
Wait, do we have a difference of theory of knowledge?
Well, definitely. I mean, animals have sex for reproduction, and I mean, they do it because they also like it.
No, actually incorrect. Most animals do not have sex for pleasure. Humans, dolphins, and very few other animals, specifically in the mammal class, actually have sex for pleasure specifically. No, your point just got undermined.
The point is that no, there are animals that do it for pleasure.
I did not disagree that there are animals that do it for pleasure. My point was that the margin of animals that do it is so incredibly small that the statement "animals do it for pleasure" doesn't lead us anywhere.
But it also does prove my point that the vast majority of the reason why sex is made is for reproduction.
For animals, for most animals. But for yes, I agree. But when I say the statement "most animals," is the concept of nuance lost on you? I have a question. Just is it?
Explain.
Explain the concept of nuance.
I don't know everything. I'm not ashamed to admit it. Explain.
I'm not asking you to know everything. I'm asking you to understand the concept of something called nuance. Nuance is when you can have extra factors in a situation outside of the very broad strokes of it. But you just did. You just did repeatedly, my dude. You denied that repeatedly.
What I'm trying to say is that yes, sex has multiple purposes, but its primary purpose is for reproduction.
My point. Okay, and sex does not. Okay, sex does not have a purpose because sex cannot have any oughts.
We wouldn't have the ability to have sex.
Sex is an action that can have purpose, but that purpose is going to be based on.
We try to prevent the purpose. If it didn't have a purpose, we wouldn't need to use protection.
That has nothing to do with it, my friend.
It does.
No, it doesn't. Sex has the purpose of sex is dictated. The purpose of sex is dictated by an individual. It is not dictated by sex. Sex does not have sapience to determine its own purpose. It is an action, and in being an action, its purpose will be determined by the person who is enacting that action. The purpose of a stab, 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 the purpose of a stab. The purpose of a stab. There we go. That worked out very well. This is why moderators are helpful, by the way. I offered you to have a moderator, but you opted not to have one, so we're having this unruly.
I let you finish, now let me finish what I'm trying to say.
Go ahead.
All right. Let's say, for example, a sword. A sword were primarily formed to fight. You could try to change the purpose. You can give it extra purpose, but it doesn't change that its primary purpose is to fight. And
so are you arguing that there is no sword that has been forged for decoration?
To cut my toenails, and I get cut. That may not be the intended consequences, but it is a consequence that you can expect to come with it because it's made primarily for that reason. Sex is primarily for reproduction. Pleasure is something that comes with it. That comes with it.
So if somebody is having sex for the primary purpose of pleasure and not for reproduction,
pleasure is what gives us the motivation to have sex.
Pleasure can also be the primary. Pleasure can also be the thing that somebody is primarily seeking.
It could be something that's primarily seeking, but it doesn't change.
Therefore, the purpose of the action, the purpose of any action, the purpose of. So here's the thing. First of all, I'm going to go ahead and hit you on an equivalence that you did earlier, and I should have hit it earlier. The purpose of a sword and the purpose of sex; these two things are incongruent. The reason is a sword is an object. A sword is an object that has purpose imbued into it. Sex is an action, so these things are congruent in that purpose can be imbued into both of them.
It has a purpose imbued to it too. Again,
no, it doesn't. You're a sapient being. Why are you being a slave to your biology?
I'm not.
But you are. Your argument, no. Your argument, my dude. Your argument is that you should be, it is a moral fucking imperative to be a slave to your biology. That's the logical conclusion of your argument.
But it is something necessary for the continuation of the
I
human
don't give a
race.
fuck. If people have sex for pleasure and people have sex for babies, guess what? People who have sex for babies, especially people who are like in the
Making it
quiverful
sex
movement,
is
will
gonna
have
lead to
enough
pregnancy.
people. There's
That
enough
can
people in
lead
the
to
world, my
pregnancy.
dude.
Oh my god, that can lead to pregnancy either way.
Okay,
Either
cool.
way,
And so I have a question. Do you believe
I
that?
have a question for you.
Sure, go ahead.
I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Does me trying to change the primary reason for something
My
make it
argument
any
is
less
my
beneficial?
argument is that the primary reason for something is going to be dictated by the individual.
That is not always true.
That is
Imagine
always true. The primary purpose of an
imagine
action
a
or an
telescope.
object
A
is
telescope
dictated
is
by
made
the
to look at things that are
person.
smaller. For example, a microscope is to look at things that are smaller. That microscope was made to look at, for example, germs, organisms that
You
are
keep
invisible. Now,
comparing
if I
sex
take,
to an
let me finish.
object.
Let me finish. If
When
I
you
take
stop
that
being
microscope,
wrong, I will. You keep comparing sex to an
no, you
object. We
fucking
are talking about
sentences.
make a congruent. Thank you. Make
Okay,
an
I am
actual
making a
cogent
congruent
argument.
sentence.
No,
I am
you're
making a
not.
congruent sentence.
No,
You are
you're
not letting me
not.
speak.
No, you're
Okay, you're not
not.
letting me speak.
You are
If I
not
take a
making a
microscope
cogent
and
argument.
I say,
You're
okay,
for
this
you to be
scope is made for
making
what it's made for, and I throw it and I throw it to try to kill some sort of bug.
compare sex to an action, my dude. Compare it to an action. Stop comparing an action to an object. This is elementary.
You did the same thing. You did
No,
the same thing moments ago.
Driving a car is an action. I am comparing
Okay,
actions
let's
to
compare
actions.
driving a
You're
car.
comparing
A car
apples
is
to
made for
oranges.
transportation. A car is made for transportation. Let's compare that. If I take a car and I drive it, and it's made to be transported, it's made to transport people.
No.
A car is made-
You're talking
And I
about
take
a
that car and use it for
car,
killing machine.
the item. I'm talking about driving
But
the action.
driving is an action. If I take a
Yes.
car that's made for driving,
What?
if I take a car that's made for driving and I decide, hey, I'm going to take this car and I'm going to use its action of driving to kill someone.
Yes, and then you have imbued the purpose in that action to kill.
The primary reason that car is made, the action of driving is made.
No. You keep doing this thing where you're dialing back to an item. Stick
Well, I'm sorry,
to
but that's
actions.
your manipulation of the situation.
I'm not
You
manipulating
compare
the
it to
situation. I'm asking you to be consistent. It's not difficult for anybody
I am
but
being
you.
consistent.
No, you're not.
Okay, I can see this
You
debate
keep
going-
arguing that an item and an action are congruent. They are not. Argue from
Items
the
can be used
action.
for action. Items can be used for action, so they are congruent.
Yes, items can be used for
If I have
actions,
a
but we're talking.
microscope,
Okay,
let me
cool.
finish. If I have a microscope that is
The purpose
made
of
to look at
you know
a
what?
smaller
If we're gonna have this as items, then fine. The item is now the human body. You have to be talking just about the human body, just the body.
Sex is made for reproduction. If we don't have it,
You're not
we'll
talking.
extinct.
Dial back to the human body, please. If you'd like to keep on making this comparison to objects,
Okay,
dial back to the human
The
body.
One of the purposes of the human body.
Wait,
is
one of the purposes. Wait, hold on. One of the purposes. One of
I
them.
said okay. Well, because we were talking about sex before. Now we're talking about the human body as a whole.
Well, we have
You
to
say
be
stop.
because you're talking about a. So a car can be used for 1,000 things. So can a human body. This is why the difference between an item and an action is determined. An item can have myriads of purposes depending on who is wielding it. An action's purpose is also defined by the individual. If
But it doesn't
the
change
purpose
fact
of an
that some
individual
actions are
sexual
made.
intercourse
Some
is pleasure.
Okay, it is tied. Let me talk about an item. Okay, let's talk about a part of the human body: a penis and a vagina. They are made primarily for reproduction. Besides,
Okay, so
of
let's
course,
talk about a
breathing.
part of the car, the exhaust pipe.
Let's talk about. Are we talking about human people? Or are we talking about cars again? You just said before that we were talking about.
You're dialing this away from the item,
You
the whole,
dilated it back
down to a
yourself.
part. I'm dialing this down to a part as well. I'm taking the
We're
exact
talking
rhetoric
about
you're
sex,
using
we're
and applying it.
We're talking about this, and you're bringing up different situations, different
Mhm.
parts that have nothing to do with the human body. When you just said we're talking about the human body, are we talking about the human body or not?
The human body as a whole, because we were talking about a car as a whole. Individual pieces of the human body, we're talking about the penis or the engine.
Let's go back to talking about that because I don't see what the point of having this conversation if we're not talking about this.
Make your point.
Okay, let's talk about what you just said, the action, okay? Penises and vaginas have specific
Wait,
designs.
are we
They're
talking about action or are we talking about items? You just said we're talking about an action, then you bait and switch to penis.
Penises and vaginas
Are not they are not actions. They are not actions. They are
They lead
items.
to actions. They lead to actions. That's what I just said. And in
Penises
terms
do
of
not.
sex,
If I cut off your penis and I throw it on the floor, what
actions?
actions will it do?
Huh?
If I were to cut off my penis and throw it on the floor, what actions would it do?
It doesn't change the fact that when it's attached to you,
What actions would it do?
it doesn't change the fact if I use that penis to and plunge it inside a vagina. And it's
Oh, wait a minute.
function,
Hold on. So you're saying that the action is dictated by the individual now?
accidents do happen whether we realize it or not. And
Wait, how does
our
that have
motive-
anything to do with anything?
Our actions motivate what we do with items and parts of our
Wait,
body.
actions do not motivate what we do with items. We
motivation-
motivate items through action.
Yes, but our biology motivates us to do things too. If we
Yes.
wouldn't have the desire for sex, and we didn't have the desire for sex, we wouldn't have the desire.
So I have a
for
question. What does it matter what the quote-unquote primary function of something is if the purpose that somebody else is using it for is different? As an example,
it's not appropriate. It's not appropriate.
Okay, so
For example, if I
a
think
magician.
of a
Hold
light-
on. You've touched on something. So let me get this
I'm
straight.
not letting you lead this way to the way that you want it. If I have a
Hold
light-
on. So it's inappropriate. It's inappropriate for a magician to use a hat in order to perform tricks in front of an audience to make little kids
That's
happy
because that
because the
specific hat is
primary.
made for that purpose.
You're gonna
That's
let me
because
finish.
that-
You're gonna let me finish. Because the primary purpose of this hat is for wearing.
Yes,
Even if
it's not-
okay. So hold on. We've touched on something still. Let's expand.
I think
The
you're
primary
just
purpose
trying
of
to
a
make it
hat.
clear.
You're gonna let me finish. I have control here. I can kick you out at any point.
Please do then. I mean, I don't really see any point.
Well, there
if
isn't
you're
a
not
point.
gonna speak.
I am going to let you speak, but I have to finish a point for you to counteract with a point. This is again
you've never let
why
me
I
finish
pointed
the
out
game.
that a moderator would be incredibly useful. But you denied having a moderator. This is on you.
I said that we respect.
You
said
denied
it's
having a
turn.
moderator.
You.
This is on. Well, I'm
I said
respecting
we
this
respect each other's
conversation.
turn.
I'm respecting this conversation insofar as I actually have two partners who have had to have abortions, and I'm actually going into this with a couple of horses in the race, as it were. Whereas you seem to be arguing from an argument of what, moral high ground, whereas I'm arguing from reality.
It's scientific high ground too.
Scientific high ground. Oh, that's interesting. Let me finish my
gave you
point.
3 scientific points, which you completely disregarded at the beginning of this debate.
So the. Actually, I've pointed out that
Do I
they
need to
don't
remind
fucking
you?
matter. Wait, hold on.
They do fucking matter. It's
Okay,
science.
say your three. Okay, one. What was your?
It's human. It's alive, and it's guaranteed to be sentient.
Cool.
These are
I've granted all of those. And none of that matters.
None of that matters.
None of it
Okay,
matters.
so if
None of it.
you
Here's
go
why
over
that.
and
Here's
take a
why that
sword and
doesn't
you kill a
matter.
person, it doesn't matter.
Say that one more time.
So if you take a knife and kill a person, it doesn't matter.
Oh no, that matters
Then why doesn't it matter if you kill a fetus?
because the fetus is reliant on a body, and there is no point where that fetus
but
has
that
gained
body
the
put
extra
it in
right.
that position. It was placed in that position.
Hold on. There's no point in time, regardless of intent, will, purpose, or otherwise, where the fetus has
It was
gained the
placed in
right.
that position.
There is no point in time, regardless of will, purpose, intent, or otherwise, where the fetus has gained an extra right over the mother to the potential mother's body.
And neither does the mother has the right to kill it either.
No, that's not
But
how
it has
this
more of a
works.
right to stay there because it was
That's
placed in that
no,
position.
it does not get more. So, if the mother has equal rights and the fetus has equal rights, then both of them have a right to their own bodily integrity. Correct?
Both of them have the right, but if you try to get
Wait,
give
hold
the
on.
mother the
So,
right to
so we
kill
agree
that
that both
fetus,
of them
if
have a
you
right to
give
bodily
the mother the right to
integrity.
kill that fetus-
We
Yes,
agree
but
that.
that proves the point because you're trying
No,
to
it
give
does.
the mother the right to kill that.
Okay,
You're trying
but
to give the mother the right to kill the fetus.
so if
That
we've
proves what
granted
you're saying.
if we've granted the mother the right to her bodily integrity and we've granted the fetus the right to their bodily integrity, what extra right is being granted in this scenario? The right to the usage of the mother's body is the extra right being granted. If we grant all
It's
human
not the
rights,
extra right. It gains
that is an
right when
extra
it-
right. That is an extra right.
It
Were I
gains
to,
that right.
the
Okay,
right
if
for
I
you to
have
use
a
my
car,
kidneys is an
and they're
extra
going
right
to
over
live
my
on
body
to
that
let
you
them
haven't
live or not,
earned.
I have an obligation to let them live.
You don't have an So when you say you have an obligation, that is a personal choice. That is not a choice you get to impose on society.
It's definitely an obligation.
It is definitely a
goes
personal
back to our
obligation, not
conversation
one
with-
that you
it
get
goes
to
back
put
to
on
our
society.
conversation over the comments. It goes back to our conversation over the comments. If you ran over someone with your car
Mhm.
and their life depends completely on your choice to let them live or die, You have a moral obligation because of what you did to save their life.
No. You do not have a moral obligation because of what you did to save their life.
So let me say, okay. So if you actually did something like this, if you ran over someone with your car, you can save their life. Would you not feel morally obligated to save their life if you can?
I would not feel obligated, but I still would.
You should feel obligated.
Okay, you can tell me what I should feel. You can tell me what I should feel all day, but now you're doing this really wonderful thing, and I love when people do this. You are arguing from feelings and not facts, my friend.
I am arguing.
No, you're not. No, you're not. By the statement, you should feel X, you are now arguing from feelings instead of facts. How did you manage this? You started with science, and you ended on feelings.
I'm not just using feelings. It's also
you just did.
If I ran over someone with my car and they're dying on the floor, I have an obligation to try to get.
No, you feel as though you have an obligation. You feel as though you have an obligation. Can you please tell me the axiomatic value that tells you have to have this moral ought? Please.
I'm sorry, but it does count. You still are legally obligated to do it.
No, no, you're not. You're not legally obligated to try to save their life.
If you ran over someone with your car and they're laying down on the floor and you let them die, you do not think there's going to be a legal repercussion for doing that?
There's going to be a legal repercussion for you running over them, but there's not going to be a legal repercussion for not trying to save their life. That's not how the law works.
There is going to be a legal repercussion.
Not for not trying to save their life. The legal repercussion will be for the action of hitting them with the car. The only time that you will have a repercussion...
Judge will take that into account.
They may take it into account, but they're not going to be able to charge you.
They are going to do that. If you can save their life, if you save their life, you're going to get a less punishment as if you don't try to.
So you are aware that what you're talking about is called the duty to rescue, and the duty to rescue is very rarely ever formalized in a court of law, correct?
I disagree.
I'm looking directly at the law. I'm looking directly at the laws, my dude. I'm looking at it right now. You can disagree, but if you're going to argue from legality, I'm looking right at it. Duty to rescue is a concept in tort law. It arises in a number of cases, but is rarely formalized.
What it doesn't say is if you put them into that position, you're not looking at the position that you put them in. That is if I had nothing to do with it. But if I was the main reason, then it becomes different.
Okay, so here's the thing, and here's where we're having an issue. So, first of all, do we agree that consent to sex is not consent to pregnancy?
It's a very strong possibility.
That we agree that consent to sex is not consent to pregnancy.
It may not be consent to pregnancy, but it is the possibility.
So, I understand that. I understand, but all that matters here is the consent. So I have a question. Why would you insert something into a woman's body that she did not consent to?
That's one of the aspects of sex, dude.
Okay, so hold on. Why would you force something to stay inside a woman's body that she did not consent to?
Accidents happen.
Yes, they do. And you know, so let's dial this back to the car driving then. Accidents do happen. You're right, they do. So, when an accident happens in a car crash, do we deny medical intervention to the person in the car crash because, welp, accidents happen?
But you're actually helping them save their life, different than taking it away.
No. This is no different because there are multiple scenarios in which having a child is actually the worst option for the mother.
Those are minorities, but for the vast
it doesn't matter that they're minorities because if you so when actually no, here's why it doesn't matter. Here's why it doesn't matter. Allow me to make a comparison for you as to why minorities matter when we are talking about cases of law. Here's why they matter.
I'm not saying they don't matter, but in comparison to
Jim Crow laws don't matter because black people are minorities.
See, that's a very extreme generalization.
No, actually, it's called a reductio ad absurdum, my friend, and you fell into it when you said minorities don't matter.
Trying to use big words to justify something isn't going to change anything.
I'm not using big words to justify something. I'm using a philosophical concept called the reductio ad absurdum, or called the appeal to an extreme. If you have a hedge case, and the hedge case cannot pass a reductio, it fails.
It's still something that's happening to millions of people by that definition, by your own logic. It's not the same thing.
Yes, it is. Your argument is that it doesn't matter because those are minority cases. Minority cases.
They hardly exist. They don't even make up 1%.
So actually, here's the issue with that as well. So the numbers on abortion are incredibly skewed, and I actually have 3 cases as to why. And I'm going to lay out my 3 cases, and mainly because they're very important for this. Are you aware of, when we're talking about cases of abortion, the idea of the elective choice?
The woman's right to choose.
No. That's not what I'm talking about. The elective choice is actually the medical term that we use for pregnancy terminations that are considered elective, where the potential mother has elected to remove the fetus, and it's a separate medical category for reasons I don't understand, than something like, say, to save the life of the mother. It's considered elective.
Again, that is a minority case. For
Wait,
the vast majority.
elective cases make up 98. Elective cases make up 98% of abortions, my friend. Elective cases make up 98%.
No, that is definitely not true. The vast majority of abortions happen because they don't want the responsibility of having that baby.
So you talked to every mother. Every mother.
Have you?
No, I've not. The difference between me and you is I'm not assuming. I'm working with numbers. You're not.
I am. I can look up the same thing that you can. Oh. Yeah, I'm not supposed to do that. All right.
So here's the thing. So what was the video that we had our discussion on?
Let's see. Yep. What was the video?
I don't know. You're the one who So the difference between me and you is that I get hundreds of comments a day, so I forget. I legitimately forget where I've seen certain things.
I have a job, and I work with hundreds of different people. I have the same problem.
Okay.
We have 2 different jobs, same results. What
okay, so that's my point was specifically for comments. I'm not trying to make a my penis is bigger argument. I'm trying to point out that I have a lot of arguments.
I don't always get time to see and check back either. I'm a very busy person, too.
Okay, my point is that because I have a lot of commenters that comment, I do not remember which videos everyone is on. I would imagine it was either the Hunter Abalone video or the one from the state representative in Iowa.
It was the Hunter one video.
Okay, so do you agree with the stats that Hunter presented in that video?
Yes.
You do. So what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying that you agree with the statistic that Hunter presented in the video that 98% of abortions are via elective choice. After denying that number was the case earlier in this conversation.
I must have gotten confused with a different video because I don't remember him ever saying that.
He specifically said that.
The vast majority of his videos, he's always showing that the vast majority of the reasons that abortions are out of fear, out of responsibility.
So he says that, but there is no data to say, there's no data to account for responsibility dodge or fear. There is data for elective choice, which he has presented.
1 second. Let me check that video.
Sure, why not? By all means.
Yep.
So I'm muting myself for this conversation for the time being.
I've seen things about abortion defects. I've seen things about fear. I don't see anything about what you're saying.
You see no data on elective reasons for abortion?
Nope.
Okay.
There's a lot about outside marriages and miscarriages, but nothing about what you're saying.
Allow me a moment.
In fact, actually, it even says in 2015, unmarried women accounted for 86% of all abortions.
What does that matter for anything?
It matters because usually women that are more stable and married can handle having a kid in comparison to women that are single and have to work and
Marriage
may
does
not.
not breed stability. It's a fucking piece of paper, and that's about
Yes,
it.
it does. Yes, it
No,
does.
it
And I don't know
doesn't.
where you're getting your statistics. I don't know where you're getting your statistics, but it even shows that married couples do better than single couples. I'm sorry.
You're doing this whole thing where correlation and causation are being confused. Marriage, the mere act of having that slip of paper, does not breed stability. It is having a
They're
stable
together.
relationship.
They're together. That's what it means.
Marriage
Having a
does not
stable
mean stable. There are plenty of unstable marriages.
But in this case, it's talking about exactly that.
So
If they are in a couple,
so
if
you're
they
now
can be
special
stable,
pleading.
if they can be together. Huh?
So you're now special pleading. It doesn't mean this except in this one case.
I think it's referring when people say marriage, like in this case, it's referring to couples that are together and stable. And marriage does strengthen a couple's relationship. It solidifies them because people that are usually not married usually end up leaving each other at some point in their lives in comparison to people that are married.
Okay, and do you know why that is?
People that are married?
Do you know why there's a higher chance of leaving in an unmarried relationship?
People don't know what they want before they're married. They're young.
Wait, how did you pull that? Because people...
Life.
Okay, so here's the thing when it comes to marriage. Marriage, at the end of the day, is a slip of paper. It is a slip of paper that essentially says...
You use a slip of paper.
No, legally. I'm talking about legally, my dude. I'm talking about the law. Marriage is a slip of paper that says that there is repercussions for these two people should they split, which BT dubs would be an incentive for them not to split. Also, there are tax benefits that they will get for maintaining together. This is how marriage works in a legal sense. I don't care about any personal sense because that doesn't matter. I'm talking about legality. When it comes to the legal action of marriage, there are repercussions.
You have to also look at the benefits of being married in a relationship, how it helps it grow and become stable.
How does so the only thing that marriage adds to the relationship
when you are married with someone, you are sure. You are sure that this is the person for you. You are most likely because of those people.
No, the statistics on divorce have a lot to argue about that.
Well, it also says statistically divorce is coming down dramatically. Yes, less people are getting married, but for the people that are getting married, their relationships are more stable than ever.
Let's see here. Divorce as a percentage of marriage. So, divorce as a percentage of marriage is actually basically stable and has been stable since the late 70s.
That is not what I learned in psychology class.
Okay. So what you're doing is you're conflating things. I'm talking about the relationship between marriage and divorce because when you say the statement, marriages have gone down, but divorce rates have gone down as well, I would then say, oh, well, why don't we look at those two things together? And as of, let's see here, what was this, in 2016? Divorce rates are stable as far as their how they compare to marriage rates. So divorce rates falling at the exact same rate that marriage is falling would lead me to believe that divorce rates are stable, and the graph I'm looking at right now actually shows that. In fact, anybody...
That is not what I learned. Give me the same time to do research like you. Well, I already did research.
So I took 15 seconds. I'll give you 15 seconds.
Millennials are to blame of the things...
millennials are to blame? Okay.
Add divorce to the list of things millennials are killing.
Wait, okay. You realize you're a millennial, right?
Divorce rate dropped by 18%. What's causing this downward trend? The overall drop has been driven entirely by young women. Car rights.
Okay, and nobody... Here's the thing. Would you like to know my personal issue with marriage? Over and above anything else. Marriage...
You just said it. Your personal. You just said it. Your personal issue.
I will tell you my personal issue. I've given you stats on everything, but you've given me a lot of personal shit. I would like an opportunity to give you some personal.
I've given you stats too. I just gave you a stat right now.
Mm-hmm. You just said divorce rates are down by 18%. Now, what is the rate that marriage is down?
1 second, please.
Sure.
And you could kind of tell. They are linked together.
Yes, they are, insofar as you cannot get divorced without first being married.
%42 of
42%.
adults in America are married.
So wait, 42% of women are not married, or marriage rates are down by 42%.
42% of people in America are married. It doesn't say how much it's gone.
Okay,
It doesn't
so
say how much
you can't
it's gone
actually
down.
pull a causal relationship here then. You can't. You don't have
You
enough
can
data. You don't have enough
get
data to work out a causal relationship.
Do you?
I'm not the one who's assuming I have. You are. You're the one making claims, my guy.
I'm backing them up.
No, you're not. You're doing a really poor job of this.
So are you.
Yeah, tu quoque is a wonderful fallacy, but enacting it doesn't help you.
Can you find the statistic of marriage now? And how old were the percent of those stats that you said before?
The stats that I pointed to before were as of 2015. These are fairly recent.
Out of how many marriages is 50%?
So, marriage rates. Let's see here. So, if we look at this graph, which I've just sent to you, seems that these two things are intrinsically linked insofar as less marriages means that there are less people who can get divorces, and we would then have fewer divorces. And in fact, actually, here's the website that I've pulled it from. And for fun, let's go ahead and do this thing where we show everybody in the chat. Hold on, I need to...
Please do.
Yeah, by all means. Let's go ahead and add a source. Window capture.
Found one. Psychology Today, too.
Doot.
It even said it is lowered from 50% to 25% the divorce rate.
Mm-hmm. And what is the marriage lowered from and to, and in the same amount of time? I'm not denying that divorce rates are down.
A couple of seconds ago, you were saying they stayed cohesively the same 50%.
Oh, yeah, in relation to marriage rates.
Yes.
So I have a question.
You were
If
saying a couple of minutes ago-
2,000 of 10,000 people get married, and half of them get a divorce, but then in the next year, only 1,000 of 10,000 people get married, and then half of them still have a divorce, are divorce rates down?
Not in that case.
Yes, they are. They're down by 50%. They're down by 50%.
In that statistic, I can find others that prove differently, like I just did right now.
So this is the
Now,
one.
they're not going to go into that much of a detail, but I can find details if you want.
For someone who's college educated, you seem to be using statistics for confirmation bias more so than anything else.
I am not.
Yeah,
and
you
are.
You
if you
really
are, if I
are.
am, you are guilty of the same. Then
Does the concept was the concept of the tu quoque fallacy never taught to you?
I bet it has in the past.
Okay. So,
Is the concept of primary usage ever taught to you?
and in that
Because
statement, in that statement
like I said
alone,
before, like I said before, if I take
the,
a microscope that is made for the observation of
you're
microscopic creatures, and
comparing
I'm not going
actions
to
to
use
objects again, my dude.
the
Mayhap
penis is in a
not.
way the penis is in a way a part of the human is a part of the human body,
Yes, it's
but
an
it doesn't have one itself.
object.
It can
We're
be used.
talking
It can
about
be used as
actions,
an
my
object.
friend.
It can be used as an object,
Yes, it
and
is an it is an
its
object.
primary reason is for
We're
reproduction.
back to
If it
this
wasn't made
again.
for that reason, if it wasn't made for that reason, it wouldn't
So I
be
have a
able
question. How often is the penis used for reproduction versus pissing?
to. That I wouldn't know, but the primary reason
Wait,
is
hold
for.
on. So
You
are
could
you
say
saying
it's
that you
okay,
piss?
so
Are you saying that you piss
let
less
me
than you have
reform that.
sex?
Let me reform that. The primary reason for penises, and I did mention that before, is for reproduction and for urination.
Do you
But in
just
terms
now
of
added
sex,
in urination?
in terms of sex, its primary reason is for reproduction. If it wasn't made primarily for reproduction, we wouldn't use protection. If we decide to take the primary reason and change it to
So
something else.
we don't use protection because of primary purposes. We use protection because there are things that we do not
We use
want.
it because that's what's primarily
Has
if we did
nothing to do with primary purposes. It
it
has
does have
literally
primary
it has
everything
literally
to do.
zero to do with primary purposes, and even if that were the case, that wouldn't matter anyway.
It would matter. And tell me why it wouldn't.
Well, here's why. Because the purpose of an action, I've said it before, and I'm gonna say it again. The purpose of an
And I said
action
this
is
before.
dictated. Holy shit, you talk a lot. The purpose of an action.
Same to you.
Tu quo quo again, my friend. Jesus Christ, you're good at that. The purpose of an action is going to be dictated always by an individual. If the purpose of me having sex is pleasure, then the purpose of sex in that instance is pleasure. No, I'm not. Purpose is dictated by individuals. Purpose of action is not.
I can take a microscope.
Let's take an action. Let's take an action like murder as an example.
Throwing a microscope across the floor to kill and throw the bug.
Okay, that is a specific action. Let's take another action. Let's take an action like murder. An action like murder can be used for multiple purposes. One is malice. There can be someone murdering in cold blood. 2, there can be revenge. 3, there can be self-defense. 4, you could even have something in wartime, which we would argue is also self-defense, or is what you're being told to do by your boss in the military. Or we could take that even further and move it to a hitman. In all these situations, we're dealing with the same action, murder. Murder is extinguishing life. However, the purpose of each individual murder is incredibly different. This is no different with sex. Sex can have the purpose for bonding. It can have a purpose for procreation.
It does have a general reason. It's killing of the innocent life. You can try to change.
Murder doesn't care if it's innocent. Murder doesn't care if somebody's innocent.
Let me look up the.
I don't care about personal definitions, and if you try to argue that a word,
this is the universal definition.
There is no wait. Are you a linguistic prescriptivist?
I do not have to be, and I mean it's by
definition.
Wait.
By saying by definition, the term by definition is something that is said primarily by linguistic prescriptivists. Are you a prescriptivist?
No, and I don't have to be.
Okay, then stop arguing like one.
I can argue like what if I want to be. If I want to, and if it's relevant to the situation.
That's fine. You know what?
Yes.
You know what? Have you ever actually been, like, at any point in time? Have you ever actually been in a debate arena? You know how these things function.
I have, but I've never had someone that's always interchangeably using something for their own benefit like you.
I'm not interchangeably using something. What you're actually accusing me of is equivocating, and I'm not. You've been doing that. But it's fine.
You've been doing that. Okay. And every time I try to use your point and see, you change it to something else.
I don't change it to something else. I've been very consistent.
We went from talking from abortion to sex to the human bodies to cars.
Yes, because all of those things are analogous to what we are talking about.
You've been changing the topic a lot.
I have not been changing the topic, my friend. This conversation has been about abortion from the beginning.
If it has, why hasn't it stuck to that way?
So, I'm guessing that things that are
Because now
tangential and
we're also talking
analogous.
about. I know what an analogy is,
Okay.
but still, every time you do a lot of analogies that aren't equipped either.
For it, I recognize the difference between me and you here is that I'm going to recognize this. I recognize that I'm about to engage in the tu quoque fallacy. I recognize this. But I believe it's apt in this scenario to tell me, your interlocutor, that my analogies are not apt, which I do not believe is true, is very strange coming from somebody who has consistently equivocated actions and objects, two things that are not even analogous.
They are connected. They are connected.
Yes, insofar as my penis is connected to sex, yes, but actions and objects are different. When we are talking about actions, let us stay inside actions, otherwise we are committing a category error.
Our body parts can take in the form can take in the same attributes as objects. A fist can cause someone pain the same way that a bat can. A penis doesn't have a mind of its own.
Wait, a fist can cause damage in the same way that a bat can, my dude. Have you ever been hit with a bat?
And not to the same degree, but the point is they can both cause damage, and a lot. Yes, a bat would always do more, but it doesn't change the fact that a fist doesn't have a mind of its own. It can be given, like you said before, it can be given a purpose, but it doesn't change that it was made for self-defense or for assault.
Okay, so if we're going to have a conversation about actions, do we agree that we need to stick to actions?
Actions are caused by objects or parts of the human body. So
that doesn't matter. If we're talking about actions,
it does relate to it.
No, it relates, but whether or not it relates does not matter.
It does matter. I mean, you cannot have an action if you don't have a body part or an object something about it either.
Okay, yes, but here's the reason. Here's the reason that doesn't matter. Here's the reason that doesn't matter.
We cannot conduct the action of walking if we do not have legs.
Yes, but that does not mean that legs can only... So, okay, here's the thing. When we are having this conversation about actions, we agree that legs walk. We also agree that legs kick. We also agree that legs help us sit. We also agree that legs help us balance. They help us for stability.
But there is a hierarchy of reason why we have them. The primary reason we have legs is for walking.
And the primary reason doesn't matter to somebody who's disabled.
Again, minority cases, but for the vast majority of the people that are not.
Then you know what? Let's go ahead and enact Jim Crow laws right now. Minority cases don't matter. Right now,
African Americans, there are millions of people like that.
Doesn't matter. They're a minority.
You are relating,
despite making up 13% of the population.
Genetic malfunctions to a whole group of people. You cannot do that.
I actually can. Your argument is that minority cases don't matter. So fine, let's go ahead and take that to its logical extreme.
But you are taking the minority, and you like to generalize it as if it's the majority.
I'm not generalizing. I'm saying that if we're going to argue that the minority cases don't matter, let's at least be consistent.
I am being consistent.
No, you're not. You're being nightmarishly inconsistent.
You take in the minority, the things that hardly happen, and you like to make it seem like they're just gigantic things that happen all the time, and that is not scientifically accurate. You cannot do that. And now you guys love to do this.
Wait, hold on. Who are you arguing with? You're arguing with me. There is no you guys here. There's no monolithic. People like me. People like me. People like me who have partners who, if they did not get abortions, would have died, and their abortions were counted as elective decisions.
You're doing it again. You are taking.
No, I'm not.
You are.
Cool. You know what? You're right. Two of my partners, they should have just died. You know what? They should have just fucking
Okay,
kicked the
okay, I
bucket.
can see that this is
No,
going
they
nowhere.
should have
You're
just kicked the
taking up
bucket. You're
minority.
right. I agree with you 110%. They should have
And what
just
about
fucking died.
all the other cases that
Nope,
that wasn't?
you're right.
And what
The
about all
minority
the?
cases
Okay,
don't
this is
matter. I
going
should have
nowhere.
2
This
dead
is
partners.
going nowhere.
They
Okay,
should be
it
dead.
was fun debating you. This is going
Goodbye,
nowhere.
my
Have a
friend.
good
Sorry. I went ahead and left the call because now we're at that awkward stage of the conversation where instead of actually having a conversation, we are talking past each other. And we're talking past each other to a point where minority cases don't matter. And when minority cases don't matter, we get awkward cases where, again, Jim Crow laws can be enacted because they're a minority. But let's work with a smaller minority. Let's work with a much smaller minority of people. Let's work with people who have abortion. Regardless of the fact that 2 of my partners had what are considered elective abortions, and one of my good friends also has what was called an elective abortion, regardless of the fact that they would have died on the table, which was explained to them, they would die on the table in childbirth, their abortions were still considered elective. But these are still minority cases. And if we're going to argue that the minority cases don't matter, excellent. I should have 2 dead partners. That's where we are. Naka, you can say that I'm nicer than you. First 12 minutes of this debate were not that. They were not nice. In any way, shape, or form. Hello. Debate someone who understands basic logic. You know what? You have a point. You have a point. I've been trying to do this thing where when somebody has a disagreement with me, I am willing to have a conversation with them regardless of their stance. But I've learned, at least as of today, that there are some people who I should not bring on for debate. And the reasons why are that some of these people do not know how to debate. And they do things like saying that, oh yeah, divorce rates are down. Cool. Marriage rates are down too. None of that matters. None of that mattered at all. So, again, yes, divorce rates are down. So is marriage. We would expect that. This is literally exactly what we would expect in this situation. And you're right. It wasn't a debate. It was an argument. I requested us bring a moderator in, and he said no moderator. Okay. Cool. So, I'm going to go ahead and end today's stream. Fairly certain I'm actually not going to keep this up on my channel. This was more of a dumpster fire than an actual interesting, fun conversation. I am, however, going to take a look at Super Chats. First of all, $5 from Cold Loyalty. If you try to help and kill them, it becomes first-degree murder. Keep it up. Tata Philosophy. Does he know about numbers 5, 11, and 31? I don't even know what those mean. Soren Tito. Wish I could stay, but the chaos is overwhelming. Yeah, and that's partly my fault. Sorry about that. Madison Newkirk, for $2, says, your patience has earned this, St. Cyrus. My patience did not exist in the first 12 minutes of this debate. I did not earn those $2. Mystic Mind says, you have far more patience for dumpster fires than I ever could. Good on you for sticking with this. Yeah, and then I'm the one that ended up leaving the debate. Cold Loyalty. I'm glad your partners are healthy. Well, thank you very much for that. I am glad that they are healthy as well. Now, and let's go ahead and make sure that, where is this? Oh, Numbers 5:11 is when God orders wives for miscarriage. Fair enough. I don't think you can call it a debate. You walked away from a stupid argument. That's not something to be ashamed of for whatever. I mean, fair. How many calls did Sir take today? Just the one. Just the one. Just the one. I think after that, I'm probably going to have to take maybe a day or so of a break. More than likely. I think I'm just going to stream some WoW to Twitch. So if you guys want to continue talking with me, I am going to be live on Twitch here in probably 10 or 15 minutes. I need to take a quick breather, and then I'll go ahead and do that. And Jack and Cool, if you want an update on what went down, I can let you know, but when I'm live over on Twitch. Let me go ahead and get that stuff so that everybody can see it if they want to. Boom. I'm not streaming Smash. Classic WoW just released. I'm going to be streaming that. But I'll be live over here. I just linked it. I'll be live there in a little bit. So, hopefully, you guys will join me over there. And I will see you in a bit.